As I continue blocking and painting up the bicep, we're using the exact same principles that we applied for the forearm. Again, roughing in with some swatches of paint, and then blending across the different painted areas. I'll really have to make sure I account for any zero weights or any non-normalized weight values in this bicep area. I did remove the influence of the bicep bone, so I have to be careful that there aren't any 99% weighted objects or points that I have to account for. Kind of move across to the back area of the character and start painting in the influence there. Again, it looks like there's quite a few little areas in here that are lacking a little bit of normalization. Paint out one more row before I move on to this bone. Actually, in fact, I'm going to kind of clean up this area here a little bit as well. It looks like there's some ambiguity towards these vertices. And around this deform, we start to kind of resume our normal pattern. Across here. Oops. Getting my colors mixed up now. Okay, let me bring these guys back. That blue, I'll just prevent that from happening. Just remask this area. Okay, there we go. Had a few problems there. I just sort of got caught up on the wrong side of my object, thinking that the deformers here were actually the deformers here. So just a little tricky illusion. There are a lot of deformers to contend with, but if you notice, I've been approaching this in a methodical fashion. As long as you don't get too far ahead of yourself, it's fairly easy to manage the amount of detail that you have to paint in. Again, just make sure you can allot an appropriate amount of time to the amount of concentration you need for this kind of a task, for these kind of tasks. Again, I'll blend these pink colors together. Do the same thing right around the inner elbows. Again, I'm using a brush that covers roughly 2 rows of edges moving up along the arm. And I'm finding that that's pretty good to spread the deformation in the way that I want. And in this area here, I might need to expand it slightly because the polygon spacing or the edge spacing increases slightly. Blend from here. And I'll try and reblend all of these new deformers back into the main deformers of the arm. I do see some weight missing here. It looks like I could probably use the shoulder to lock those points down, but at the same time it looks like one of these objects should actually control these vertices here. I don't want too rounded of a shoulder, and these vertices here should definitely move with the bicep, so I'll try and paint these back in and maybe reblend back against these 100% weighted deformations. I always find there's nothing wrong with kind of painting over a section and then repainting again. You just kind of get closer to the look you want. Okay, almost done here. We're about ready to give this a try. I think we'll have pretty good results. One last blend in the... It's probably a little too large. Just shrink this down and do one last blend in the biceps. Okay, if I give the arm a twist now, we should get a fairly nice looking blend. I'm just going to switch to a hidden line mode and turn the X-ray shader off so I can sort of see what's going on here. So actually, you notice that it actually holds up pretty well. Probably need a little more blending in the inner elbow area, but for the most part I think this is doing a pretty nice job. A little bit of smoothing right through here. Looks like these areas could definitely be a little softer when I distribute that twist. It shouldn't be so jarring across the arm, especially in the transition between the forearm and the bicep. And you can see here now that we're not losing that volume in the same way we did before. And we do get this nice distributed twist all the way up the arm. The roll of the bicep. And what appears to be the overlapping of the ulna and radii. So all I need to do is take this effect now and mirror the weights across to the other side. I'll just pop the character back into his default pose. Just use animate apply action. And apply a symmetry mapping template to map across. Now I've actually changed the mapping template since I last applied it, so I can either keep the old mapping template, because they really don't occupy much space, and build a new one, or simply just delete the old mapping template. I'll also recreate the symmetry cluster as well. So if I find my object, expand it to open up the clusters folder, I'll delete the symmetry map cluster and create a new symmetry mapping template. Animate, envelope, create symmetry mapping template, and we'll autofill the symmetry map in the YZ plane. Again, I've got quite a few deformers now, and if I look through the list I should be able to quickly validate the left-right mapping connections. And if I hit validate, again, we can see that there's every rule from left to right and from right to left. Okay, so from here I'm just going to take all my weights in the arm and mirror them across. So I've got extended component selection on, so let me turn that off. And I'll mirror those weights. So if we test this out in the character's right arm, we get that same distribution. Alright, so that's the arm twist effect, and it'll help posing our characters in some of the future scenes we're going to work with. This character is going to be useful in some of the upcoming Delta tutorials as well, describing model workflow and reference modeling in scenes. So I'm going to export this character as our newest advanced rig for the Malcore character. I'll pop the character back into its rest pose, and I'll export that model. Make sure I close up the model to see if there's any hanging objects. In this case I just have a group that needs to be dropped into the model, and I'll export the character as Malcore Advanced Rig Model 2. So our next bit of rigging is done on our character, and we can move forward onto some additional areas.